Hello, hello. I have no idea if anyone's on here yet. I am opening up the chat. Hey, alright, okay, awesome. Welcome, guys. Great to see you on here. Let me adjust this a little bit, put this over here. Can you guys hear me? I just have the one screen, so I'm trying to put everything the way it should be. Awesome. Okay. Great. Great. Welcome, Matt. Welcome, Pengi. Awesome. So what we're going to be talking about today, guys, and we might wait a little bit until more people come in. There hopefully will be a couple more people this time around. We're obviously talking about designing your game, finishing your game by means of having a design document, what goes into that, and if you've seen the last stream, a lot has changed with the design document. I fleshed it out a lot. I've also prettied it up a little bit, and I've also done the sort of outline for the development plan. So the scheduling, so when I want to get things done, what my sort of milestones are, and when I think I'll be able to finish it by. And we might talk about some little challenges that might be on the horizon with this game. But yeah, Max, welcome. Awesome. Thank you for dropping in. Yeah, I know it's a weird time for you with the stream and when I do them, but glad you were able to make it for a little bit there. But yeah, so we'll look at this, we'll look at the design document, we'll look at kind of the marketing schedule, the development schedule, and what is up with that. So there's a couple of you guys in here. We can kind of get started with this. So as you can see, as I mentioned, I kind of prettied it up a little bit. I noticed that like doing this, like once I added this stuff to it, I was like, I actually kind of want to do this now. It's a lot more enjoyable. It feels a lot more professional. And I think that adding that sort of branding almost kind of makes you feel a little bit better about it, if that makes sense. Not that I necessarily should feel good about this. I don't know if I should or not, because it might suck. And the only way to find out about that is to get people's feedback and put it out there, which is always a challenge. But certainly adding like my logo and things like that, and adding in these little headers, and this is literally just in the header, just this like little long image that I created in GIMP. There's probably an easier way to do it, but that's how I did it because I had no idea how else to do it. So okay, the document looks great. It's got all of these little tables of contents and whatnot. This is so flippin' useful, oh my goodness. Initially I was just doing plain text, and I was like, oh, I like plain text. I don't like flowcharts or spreadsheets and things like that, but like it makes you want to be in your document, you know? It makes you want to like mess with it and stuff. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. I'm glad you think so. I'm glad you think they look good. I think so too. I think it helps. Hopefully. It helps me, I guess. Hopefully it helps you guys if you do that in your design docs. So yeah, all of this stuff is like fully laid out. Some of this stuff isn't super fleshed out at the moment. But yeah, hey Jaden, I hope that's how you say your name. Welcome. What's up? I don't know if you're shocked or if you're not enthused by what I'm doing. I'm not sure. But anyways, let's get into this document. So I showed you guys this before. This isn't a super big deal. Nothing really changed there. I have a bit of like a tagline here, and it kind of looks a little bit nicer now. So the new pope must purge the Vatican of a secret invading horde of demons. It's better than, you know, what I was kind of brainstorming last time. Core gameplay loop. So this is a flowchart. This is an actual flowchart. It's not just text, you know, bullet points. And this is really nice, to be honest. Having the visual, right, having it look nice. I've been kind of stressing that because I found that it just helps, you know, it just makes you feel confident about this stuff. And real quick, you guys, before I continue with this, I do want to let you know, if you haven't, I know a lot of you guys have, but I do have my indie game starter guide, completely free, PDF in the descriptions. People have been telling me it's super helpful. I tried to put in a lot of effort into it and a lot of detail. Uh, Pick that up if you'd like. I worked hard on it, so I hope you enjoy it. I am moving very soon, which is going to be very difficult for me, I think, and juggling that and a new job and like wanting to do YouTube and make games at the same time, I have to figure out a way to make my YouTube videos a little bit more sustainable for myself. So I did start a Patreon as well that you can find down there, and you'll get a bunch of good resources from that, more game dev tips and educational content and stuff in the description. And lastly, if you want a more one-on-one, more detailed consultation tips, that's also available. It's a little bit more of an investment, but it's in its kind of beta prices right now, so you're going to be getting it for a lot cheaper than you could get it in the future. So if you want some help with your game, that's an option for you. I'd love to help you out. I enjoy helping out, so I thought it would be a good way for me to also help people while getting something for myself and kind of sustaining doing things I like doing. So hopefully you understand, and hopefully that's something that will be helpful to you, because I think there's a lot of potential, a lot of value in that. So okay, then I have the hook, and that gets its own section, and all of this is under the subheading of gameplay, gameplay features. So tagline, core gameplay loop, gameplay hook, and then detailed gameplay feature overview is really where we start getting into it. And a lot of this stuff comes from Thomas Brush and his course and his design document template. I'm not shilling it for him right now. It's cool, but I'm just saying that's where it comes from. That's my source for this to say I didn't just make this up. So familiarity, uniqueness, and memorability, these are very important elements of a hook, and I don't think this cuts it. So I want to have the Pope basically have like an aspergillium, which is like a little rod that clergy use to sprinkle holy water. And I was thinking it would be pretty cool if that could be like what he uses against the demons, because in the Catholic faith, holy water is, and you probably know this from like Castlevania and whatever, or like exorcism movies or something, you use holy water against demons, and you can basically exorcise them. So he'd basically be like, you'd see like this like, I was watching recently a fan game of Five Nights at Freddy's. I forget. I think it's called the Joy of Creation, and it's super spooky. And like whenever you in one of the sections, when you like look at one of the animatronics, they like, or I don't know if it's because he's flashing his light at him, but they look spooky, and then like they look like they feel super like damaged or like in pain when you like shine the light at them. So I thought like if the holy water like lands on them, it would like sear them and like almost like disintegrate them in like flames. I think that would look pretty cool, almost like the Halo 4 when you like kill like a Forerunner construct with like a light rifle or something, they like disintegrate. Or I think it was specifically like the one more the stronger Forerunner weapon. I forget what it's called. But I'm thinking that sort of effect, and that might be enough for the memorability. I'm not sure. It doesn't necessarily have the best hook, and this is kind of where I'm struggling. I don't know how strong the marketability for this game is. The Pope imagery is great, but the actual gameplay, the action... Scattershot. Thank you. That's the one. Isn't that the shotgun? I thought that was the shotgun. I thought that was... But if that does the effect. The point is the effect that I'm talking about. So if they all do them, then yeah, perfect. You guys know what I'm talking about. Okay, so marketability. I was talking to Chris Sukowski the other day. He's like a indie game marketing expert. He does a bunch of GDC talks and stuff, and he helps a lot of companies. And he was telling me a lot, not super related to this specifically, but he was telling me about like, horror games. You guys know Choo Choo Charles. I mentioned Five Nights at Freddy's. Horror, the super popular horror games are the ones that take something from like your childhood and make it terrifying. So like Thomas the Tank Engine, or like little what's that franchise with the animatronics? Chuck E. Cheese, which is Five Nights at Freddy's. Um, Welcome, Astra Game Studios. Great to have you. But yeah, so that's not necessarily like horror, right? Like it there's a lot of horror movies that have like Catholic imagery and stuff, but maybe for a game it might be good, but it might not be as good as like something like that. But like what I'm doing here is a lot more like a raw stealth game, an immersive sim, like Thief, like Dishonored, that sort of thing, which is what I love. But it's a lot flippin' harder to make those kinds of games, and I'll explain why when we get to the development plan. um, and it has to do with finding out what you're actually good at as a developer and like finding your strength. Um, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but welcome to Crackman. Welcome. I hope I got that right, or at least close. But I think that's kind of enough for the hook. So kind of real quick going into like the feature overview. I just want to see you guys. I want to show you guys kind of what it looks like when it's more polished. It's not fully done, but like it's at a point where like I'm happy with it. It's good enough for me to. I have a good idea of what the game is. I can maybe start getting into like development, and this is the standard that I personally look for when it comes to detail. Um, Literally, everybody knows that you strafe with WASD, but I'm telling you in this document that you do that. Um, Fair enough. If no one else can pronounce your name, then that's the exact same thing for me. I mean, people say Andrew's Edge. That's kind of the funny one. So yeah, all of these features, the player, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna do this one. This is like the idea of like some demons can only be expelled by prayer and fasting. There's a passage in the Gospels where Christ tells that to his apostles because they're like, why can't we expel these demons? Because you gave us those faculties. And he says to them, some can only be expelled through prayer and fasting. So I thought, well, actually, no, this came from Max. I can't take the credit for that. Um, hey, Brandon. Welcome. Thanks for coming. Um, and where were we? Right. So when it comes to this feature, I don't know if I'm gonna do it because it's kind of hard to show. But it's like you might have like bread that you can like pick up and heal yourself or not, or you might get like a pop up saying like basically like I choose to fast instead, and you get rid of the bread, and that maybe makes like your health is still low, but maybe your holy water is more powerful. Hey, KLOL, welcome. Um, and yeah, so then like a lot, and then like some of these things like opening doors, like we're getting down into the details. Um, and I talk about like some of these enemies, the holy water will affect, some of them won't. That goes back to that idea of like not all demons can be expelled other than by prayer and fasting. And then some of them you will have to like consecrate an altar, so you'll have to like find books that have like the right words, and they're going to be like basic Latin prayers, like the first few words of like the Pater Noster or something like that. And then you have to go back to the altar and say and like select the right words, and then that altar will kind of be cleansed essentially, which isn't necessarily authentic or anything, but it's I don't necessarily want to put full blown the real like Catholic rites in it. I just want to have like a callback to like a something that is real, but then also it have it from like a game perspective. um but okay, so those are kind of that's the overview of like the features, and that's kind of I want to give you guys the idea of what this will be like. Oh, and I want to do like the idea of like biblically accurate angels, but then have them as like also have like the fallen like versions of them. There's not really any I'm not aware of any Catholic teaching about what they might look like if they were to like appear that way. They usually are very frightening for a lot of different reasons. But basically being like, okay, we know the imagery of like the fallen or of like the biblically accurate angel. That's kind of like a point of interest for people. and then what does that look like corrupted, right? It should be terrifying. So that's that idea. A state machine for the enemies, and then just kind of different things, sounds, surfaces. Just like this is gonna change depending on your game. And then this is the stuff that I haven't really polished out yet. You can kind of see already what my strengths are, right, as a developer, and what you should focus on for yourself to basically find your own strength. Is your art direction section completely full of inspiring images and stuff that you made? You're probably a strong artist. Is, like me, your implementation side very strong and very detailed? You probably think a little bit more about the game design side of things. Or for myself, also story is quite important to me. Level design is important for me as well. And then, yeah. So I think we're good in talking about the game design document. Let's see here. Griff, welcome. Been interested in game development in forever and binge a lot of game dev videos. Same. Was wondering where is the best way to start. Aha, well, in fact, I actually have a little indie game starter guide, a PDF in my description, and also a Patreon, which has some more resources for you guys. Specifically, how you come up with super simple game ideas. Look at game jams. You can go to itch.io and look at past game jams. You can look at all of the sort of like winners of like weekend game jams. I think that's a great start. I think that's like, that gives you because the winners of game jams are always going to be the ones that did the best, the ones that were the crunchiest, the most polished, the most interesting to people. So that's what I would do, and that's what I recommend in my Brackeys video. Mr. Matt, consequences of player failure. That's actually a really good point. Yeah, because I don't really touch on that, do I? That's actually a really good point. That's important. I should put that. Probably, I would put that in like in or not in this, in like the core gameplay loop. But then also in the enemy, in what the enemies do, in the enemy's actions. What do I say here? If they get within range, they attack the player. They will attack until they lose sight or get banished. Aha, but I didn't say or the player dies. And then I might have like a link to another heading, and then I might write in here what happens when the player dies. Or literally just fail state. I also didn't touch on things like, how are the input systems going to work? How are the key bindings going to work? What's the saving going to be like? So that's also important. That's something that I should probably add in as well. Some other questions real quick. Do I have a note where I think about the attraction the player will have with the game? I think you mean something like what will be intriguing or interesting or like eye-catching to them. So you might have missed the beginning of the stream, but it's right here. It's this gameplay hook. So what is the one mechanic that sort of is gonna catch people's attention, is gonna make them think, oh, that's really interesting, I want to play that game. This isn't the best example of that, but and I mentioned these points come from Thomas Brush. So familiarity, so something that's familiar. Let's take I don't know, Choo Choo Charles, just because it's fresh in my mind. I made that video about it. Thomas the Tank Engine is familiar. Uniqueness, Thomas the Tank Engine as a monster spider is pretty unique. Like this isn't my idea here isn't. This is the only thing I could really think of in terms of uniqueness. I need to flesh this out a bit more. And then memorability. How is your gameplay experience going to leave a strong memory of like, that was so cool in your mind, right? And this isn't good enough, right? Like memorability of like Choo Choo Charles chasing you when you're in the train and you just barely made it, you just got away, that sort of thing. It's tough. It's the toughest part, in my opinion. Why will the player like and continue to play this game? Well, so that's kind of the initial part. Continue is the game is good. It has a good gameplay loop. It's well challenging. It's properly challenging. And it's not frustrating, and it's crunchy. Crunch is important. Feedback. So like, do an action, get result. I can affect the world. I can swing my sword at like grass, and the grass goes flying everywhere. Um, when I punch an enemy, he goes, oh, he like really like strongly like reacts. Strong reactions is basically something that those are all kind of surface level things. Fundamentally, a good core gameplay mechanic. Um, yeah, Brenda, I'm not sure if I'll actually use like specifically asparagus, like the like asparagus. Man, I don't think so, just because it doesn't have like. But what I will for sure do is have like Gregorian chants where reasonable, I like you're gonna meet saints and stuff, and I thought like running into a saint and having like a Gregorian chant that either that saint wrote, or maybe that kind of gives you in some ways like related to that saint. And like for sure at the end, I want him to be like he's going into the tombs of the martyrs, and he's gonna say mass, and that's gonna be like the final thing that like purges the infiltration. And then that's gonna have like the choirs of angels and everything like that. So um, I don't know though, right? Like it's also kind of a matter of scope and what I'm gonna do with music and stuff. But I definitely want to do um, some sort of thing like that. But yeah, I wouldn't use it in the sound effect because like you wouldn't want to like use it and like every second you hear like the song play. Like that's probably not what you mean, but yeah. Anyways, I think we're good for this. I want to show you guys what I've been up to with the actual marketing schedule and talk about kind of where some of the challenges are gonna lie here. And I also don't remember how janky some of the stuff I wrote here actually is. So there might be some nonsense in here that doesn't make any sense. So I split it up into 6 milestones, and the most important, in my opinion, maybe I shouldn't value them that way, but at least in terms of I don't know, in terms of like how much I have to think about them more immediately. Step one, prototype. This is like I'm just gonna get as many features into the game as I can. I'm gonna have enough for the Steam page. I'm gonna um, basically implement everything in like a raw state that isn't polished, that doesn't necessarily look pretty. So for this, I want all of the player sneaking features. I want him to be able to move around equivalent to everything I have in Air Obscure. So my advantage here is that like 80% of the features from Air Obscure, or rather 80% of the features in this game, I can just pull from Air Obscure. The stealth, the enemy AI, opening doors, opening notes, things like that. The main thing I'll have to add is this holy water mechanic, which I'm still not sure about. I still want to kind of figure out how to make that really good and really juicy. And then the main challenge is really going to be the content, right? The level design, making all the different enemies that are all kind of, varied and unique and stuff. That's going to be the real challenging part, I think. But anyways, yeah, so the prototype is just the mechanics. So this thing I can, like, probably do in a month. Ideally, I really want to do it, like, I think a month is fair. I think a month is fair, because I want to get the Steam page up as soon as possible, too. Then you go with the vertical slice, and this is kind of something a little bit more polished. So I added, I think I already said holy water in here. Also, like another mechanic, the sensor, locked doors, and then some NPC dialogue. I'm not sure if that's more likely to be. I wanted to do conversational dialogue, but I also have to keep in mind the scope. I've already done animatic cutscenes in Air Obscure. Maybe that would be easier. But then again, on the other hand, dialogue cutscenes might be easier because I have to write it one way or another. I can just use an asset for the dialogue for the system, and then I don't have to pose the characters and take a snapshot and then pose them again in a different thing and then edit the videos. So actual dialogue might be A, more fun, B, just straight up easier to make. Interesting. I'll have to think about that. And then this will also have all enemy types. So this is going to be a lot bigger than the prototype. And then the demo is just everything. The demo, or not everything. The demo is like quick tutorial area and doesn't necessarily have to be the actual game. A 15-minute gameplay showcase. This is what I'm going to be sending to streamers, festivals, early playtesting maybe. You guys will probably get access to like the prototype and the vertical slice as well. And then the alpha is just the full game, everything, and you start testing it, you start finding bugs. Beta, same thing, it's just phase 2 of that, just you really want to get like a full pass. And these are also marketing opportunities, right? A lot of AAAs will use them as strictly marketing opportunities. It's an opportunity, but obviously, fundamentally, you're also improving your game by doing these things. You're always looking for feedback. And then, obviously, finally, the final release. Alright, so, question. The template, I didn't make fully myself. I used a mix of, like I did a first pass on my own, and then I looked at Thomas Brush's template. So, a lot of this comes from Thomas Brush. Well, a lot of the design document. The development plan is kind of made, like I'm sure I've heard about all this stuff, but I was just kind of thinking and planning it the way I thought made sense. And yeah, so now we get into the scheduling. So I go, okay, obviously, like, okay, yearly, I want to get the game released, let's say by next January. I want to take a year to do it. First quarter, second quarter, and then third quarter, and then fourth quarter, final release, whenever. And the way I've kind of broken that down is I figure, okay, it's probably going to take me roughly a month, maybe a bit more, to get the prototype finished. I want to get the Steam page up as soon as possible, so I kind of figure, okay, maybe February, March. And I have some devlog ideas, so you guys... And this is all just brainstorming. I don't know if these will actually be videos that I create or not. But I do want to start introducing my game in my next video. I don't know if any of these are good. I thought that the Biblically Accurate Angels would be a great devlog. And then this is just kind of silly. But yeah, so that's really all there is. I'm just saying, okay, just do Milestone 1. And then I also want to do visuals for the like fallen angel type of creatures, and then I can also use this early milestone as like, hey, get the demo, get the early in-dev version of the game. All you have to do, it's free for you. I just get your email, which is a completely fair trade in my opinion. And then I also give you other free stuff, and also I will send you stuff that is maybe more high quality that you also would pay for. Which, speaking of which, we'll do this again. If you guys are interested in a more personalized one-on-one consultation for your game, if you want some feedback, some super precise help, I do have a consultation in the description that you can book an hour with me for. It's currently at a beta price, so the prices will go up eventually, but right now, as I'm doing them in these early stages, the price is a lot lower, so this is the perfect time to do them. I also have a Patreon down there, so you can get a lot of it's videos, and it's also written script versions of my public videos, but also with like exercises and things like that, like basically homework that you can actually do and replicate, and I think it's very helpful. I want to give you guys useful stuff. Yeah, back to this. So April, May, June, and I don't know if any of these devlogs are good ideas or not, but I do want to do a Kickstarter for this, and the reason for that, I wanted to do it initially, but I'm kind of understanding things a little bit better now. And you can see that I put Milestone 2 and 3 together. Is that a good idea? Milestone 2 is pretty big. But maybe Milestone 3, maybe the demo isn't that bad. The alpha is going to take a lot of work. The alpha is going to be like the biggest part of development. Um, yeah, okay. So Kickstarter, the reason for Kickstarter, I think, will be level design. As I said, so when I talked to Chris Sikowski, he said, focus on your strengths, and also, um, if you're like a genius at something, which I wouldn't say I'm really a genius in any field of game dev. Like Gavin, the guy who made Choo Choo Charles, is clearly like a genius. Thomas Brush is a genius in art. Um, I'd say I'm kind of like a little bit of everything. I really like the marketing side of things, to be honest. I really like the strategy and the planning, um, and like coding, like implementation of features and stuff like that, and thinking about what makes good games. Um, but yeah, so well, basically, it's either you make a game that fits your like one thing that you can become a genius in, or you hire someone, right? and um, not and like just commissioning someone isn't good enough. Like I commission people for Air Obscura, that's no problem. It's just like you pay them like a couple $100 for one thing they make you, but it's not about like, okay, make me assets, right? I can make a wall, a table, whatever. I can do that. But what I can't do is say I need an art direction. I need to know what the color palette for the level should be. I need to know like the composition. I need to know like when you turn around, does it look as good as when you turn this way? Lighting, it's really hard. So that sort of thing, and then like actually like doing the stuff that I really don't want to do, which what I really don't like doing is like sitting in Unity and being like, let me align these walls together. I hate the like, I like designing levels, but I don't like making them, if that makes sense. Um, and I don't know if I'm gonna hire anybody. Uh, but uh, but yeah, that's something that I have to keep in mind. Like that's the challenge for me is like 90% of this game, because everything's already developed in Air Obscure. The only thing that I'm gonna be developing is like adding some combat to the AI, adding the holy water and the sensor. Beyond that, everything exists. So the majority of the work is going to be in creating the art, creating the assets, and creating the levels. Everything that I'm just not that great at. So, should I make this game? There's probably a better game out there that I could make that suits me better, but this is kind of the only idea I've got right now, except for other ideas that are just as hard as this, if not harder. Um, we'll see how it goes. There's never any promises, but we'll see how it goes. So yeah, April, May, June, Kickstarter, Milestone 2, get the demo out, start getting involved in festivals, getting YouTubers to show it. And then Milestone 4 is the alpha. Yes, Andre, you were right when you said it will probably take the majority of this time. And then basically just the entire second half of the year is just bug fixing. But in fact, it's probably going to take me even longer than I expected to even just do the level design. So I don't know. I don't know how small I can make that. Like the smaller I can make it, the better. But I do want to make it fairly involved. So yeah, that's the plan. What do you guys think? Do you guys think it'll work, or do you guys think it's a disaster waiting to happen? Let me know in the chat. And let's talk about what you guys are working on. Do you guys have any games that you're working on? Have you made design documents? Are you hoping to make design documents? Are you working on a big game, a simple game? Are you playing to your strengths? What do you guys think? Let me know. Let's talk about it. So, Micah, I hope that's how you say your name. I'm glad you think that the angels, the fallen angels and things sounds ominous and creepy. I think that would be pretty good. I think that's a pretty good interest factor in terms of the imagery. The issue is that like imagery isn't always what sells games, and if I'm not a strong enough artist to do that, then it might not be it. But if I can get someone else to do it, then it could be it. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm glad you think it's a solid plan to Crackman. Awesome. And Matt, I'm glad it's useful for you. I hope so. I yeah, I think it's good. I think I have a generally good plan. I think that this is something that people can replicate, I hope. Um but guys, don't do like a year. Don't plan a year. Plan like a month. I'm serious. Plan a month. Ideally, do a few over like a few weekends first. Just like release a game once, like one game a week for a weekend. Because like, and if it's like, well, I don't have time to devote my whole weekend to that. Well, then like you don't have time to devote your year to your dream game. That's gonna make like a couple $100, to be honest. Um, so get good first. Save yourself the hassle that I did by spending 2 years making Arab Scare, um, which was a great learning experience, obviously. But yeah, um, replicate this on a small scale. And yeah, I guess okay, it's actually it's only been it's not been too long of a time. What can we do? What can we do? We could get started on something. What can we get started on? What do you guys want to see? Do you guys want me to start working on some 3D assets? Do you guys want to see me creating I could probably start working on like the Aspergillium, or we can look at some like art inspiration. I don't know if that would be useful to you guys. Actually, I don't know if we can do that. We probably can't do that. What do you guys think of like using Midjourney, like AI art? Like, I'm super mixed about it. I know people that use them, and I'm just not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like, cause then I could be like, okay, show me the Vatican spooky toon shaded or cell shaded, right? And I could just get an idea of what that looks like. But then, is that AI using other people's art? I don't know how that works. Um, so I'm not sure if that's something that I can do or not. And then the other thing that we can do is, this will probably take too long, but I could open up Unity and start like getting the prototype together, which would require me pulling assets and things. But we can make plans. I think the best thing, the easiest thing, would be if I started working on the Aspergillium, or we could start working on the angel designs. That might be fun. That might be fun. We can do that. One idea that Matt and I talked about. Oh, well, there I go, deleting the cube. So this is Blender 3D. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with it. Okay, I'll delete the cube again. But this is like 3D modeling design software, and I don't know. I'm not super great at Blender. Oh my gosh, well, I can't decide what shape to use. But you guys know one of the angels are called thrones, and they're like the wheels of eyes. So I was thinking basically what we sort of came up with for like the fallen version is like sort of like bent out of shape, rusty, and then instead of eyes, because eyes are like the beatific vision, like in heaven you see God, but if you're like eternally refusing and you're eternally prideful, then you're saying no, I'm not gonna. So all of the eyes are shut, but then it's got mouths, and it's like it's just saying whatever to, because a mouth is much more like active, an eye is much more passive. An eye is like, I'm seeing what you allow me to see, right? A mouth is like, I'm gonna spew hatred and like just like, I'm not gonna have like blasphemy in the game, but that's pretty much what they would be doing. So that, I thought that would be kind of a good imagery. And then Matt said things like rusted metallic wheels and like bent out of shape and things like that. I think that was your idea, right, Matt? But yeah, so snappy feedback element, include active engagement with the enemy, like haptics of being hit. So I thought haptics is like VR, like you have like a thing that you actually feel it, or like your controller shakes, which yes. And it would also include, if you're talking about even like from just using like keyboard and mouse and stuff, screen shake, which isn't always applicable. Like in Arab Scare, when you get hit, I was pretty proud of the effect. When you get hit, your ears ring, everything muffles, it goes red, it goes like blurry, and like it narrows, it kind of goes black, your vision. So yeah, like that sort of thing. Basically details that just kind of make it more immersive. And feedback of the enemy having an impact on the game world. I would say no. I would say that that's more the enemy having an impact on the world is more so like emergent storytelling. I don't know if that's necessarily like feedback, but it's definitely part of interactivity, and it's definitely part of fun in that like changing the world is fun, and like the world being always dynamic is fun. It's not necessarily in the same way. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, hopefully that makes some sense. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna basically, oh, that's not how you want to do this. I'm not the best at Blender, but actually I started in Blender, funny enough. The first thing I ever did was try to make an RPG in the Blender game engine. My goodness, flippin' disaster. Actually, maybe we want these thicker. So, these are the thrones, and this is kind of like, so far, a more, we'll start out with like a good version of the throne, as they should be. And then, let's maybe scale that down to fit. These are going to be like animated, but then like if they're all crumpled up, they'll be like, they won't be able to spin within themselves. It'll be kind of neat. Let's do this. It's a little asymmetrical. Like it would have to be, right? Like, does that make sense? Do I want a third one in there? I don't know if we really know how many of these wheels that they'd actually have. And then I'm not sure if I'll necessarily model the eyes or if that'll be a matter of texturing them. I'd need to sculpt like a shut eyelid. I'm not very good at sculpting. I just haven't done a whole lot of it, but I'd probably try that. And then this guy would be kind of bent out of shape. This is kind of brainstorming, to be honest. So I'm kind of experimenting with what this would look like. I can kind of grab that chunk and kind of turn on this. If I did this normally, I'm just moving the one chunk that I like box selected. But if I turn this thing on, proportional editing, or you can use the O key, and then you can select what kind. And I don't exactly know what each of these does, but I just like experiment with them until I find like a fall off that works. But you can see that it kind of like it affects the one that you're selecting, but it also affects the neighboring ones a lot. So this is that's a little too sharp. So let me try root, and that's a little too sharp the other way. Sphere? Yeah, not quite. What about actually doing sharp? Let's go back to smooth, and then I think what I'll just do is just like increase the size a little as I go. And then also just kind of, let me do that. So that's kind of the beginning of something, and then maybe we'll want to, something more significant, more indented. That looks good. I don't know, does that look silly, or does that look like, obviously it doesn't look like anything right now, but does that look silly, or does that look like maybe it's gonna be a little spooky? But yeah, I'm not sure. There's not a whole lot I can do with this right now. They'd probably like spin along their axes, and then they'd try to spin, and then they'd be like, oh, well, I can't like, I think dynamically animating it would be too difficult. So the question of scope. Do I animate it like dynamically, or do I just have him going like back and forth? You know, just like a static looping animation. We can try that out. We can definitely try that out. I'll make something kind of quick here. So not being super specific or super, like making them like as precise. This might be too much, but whatever. So okay, this is kind of your bent out of shape, and okay, that's actually that's interesting. That you kind of get the vibe, like you get that these are still wheels, so that might be onto something there. So animation wise, let's select all these three, and I'm just gonna eye rotation, and then play for a bit, and let's just leave them there, and then another eye rotation, and then a quick, and then he'll rotate back, and then another. So what I'm doing here, guys, if you don't know much about animating, is selecting that like eye rotation. I'm saying, okay, lock that frame into that position. So for example, you'll see that if I go back to those, it's in that position, and then as I go into this, they start moving. So I move them, I say eye rotation. The other way is you can hit this button here and like record, and if I do that, and I start moving them, then that automatically creates those keyframes. I'm not gonna do that for this, just to keep it simple though, because I do want to just basically copy. So they spin. Not all of them are spinning. Only that one is. So let's just try that again. Well, that's ridiculous. We don't want that to happen. I'm not sure why it did that. I'm just going to delete those. Okay, so we have them spinning one way, and then I want them spinning back. No, why are they doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Cool. I'm glad it looks spooky so far. Hopefully I can get this flippin' animation. So, like, sometimes it just does stuff like this, and it's annoying. But, okay, so I got one. What about this one? I'm just gonna do them one at a time. Yeah, I guess it gets confused sometimes when you do, like, a bunch at a time. I'm sure there's a factual reason for it, but... So, yeah, and those are a little, those aren't quick enough. Oh, they should totally be, like, off. Like, not happening all at the same time. Because they're short and the effect is kind of lost. So I'd spend a lot more time tweaking that, but I really want to try to just do this again. Just copy them all at once again. Yeah, okay, so I guess it only works on one object at a time. So be it. Yeah, okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm just making it repeat once and then gotta do the same thing for all of them. Okay. That might not have worked. Yeah, so it'd be like, yeah, it's kind of cool. He's kind of like, it's like he's twitching, you know? It's like he's like, you know, it's like he's like messed up, like broken, you know? Like, and maybe there should be some like more smooth spinning in between that. But I think that, you know, with some tweaking and some polishing, that could work. Like, you know, right there, that's unacceptable. We can't clip it like that. So I'd have to, you know, maybe the easiest way to do that is just to like grow that part, right? I'm not sure. Gosh, I make animating look easy. I appreciate that, man. I don't know. I find animating very difficult. I enjoy it though. I do like it, but gosh, it's hard. It's hard. But yeah, cool. Hopefully that's interesting. I'm glad it generally. I'm glad that the vibe seems to be that it generally looks good. Um, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe just quick, real quick. What would be a material that would be good for these guys? In virtue, in good standing, they would be maybe golden. That makes sense to me. They're like metallic, right? Let me go into the render view. Oh, and they should totally be shaded smooth. Gosh. So you see all those edges, right? Like you can get rid of that by going to Object, Shade Smooth. And then we have a light over here. You can, like, this will be experimented with in Unity, and I'm planning on using, like, cel shaded, or at least, like, outlines and things like that. I don't know if I will. Maybe it might be interesting to go with a more realistic approach for these. But I don't know if I have, like, I don't know if that's my forte. Oh my gosh. Dziękuję bardzo. That. Wow. Thank you for that super chat. That's amazing. Um, Dziękuję. Cieszę się, że podoba ci się mój kanał. I'm glad you like my channel. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Good to know. Thank you. I'm not sure what I can do about that. Maybe it's just something to do with, I don't know, latency, something to do with OBS or something. But thanks for letting me know. I'll see what I can do after I watch the stream back. But okay, so in terms of materials, you can make them look literally like more metallic. Maybe I'll work with that one actually, just because it'll be easier to see with the light there. And I could just move the light because I'm super smart. It's just because it's a bigger surface. I'm looking at making it more metallic. So you have literally the metallic option, which it doesn't look all that metallic when you change. However, you can also change the specular, which is literally like, it's like almost impossible to see any difference. Oh my goodness. Alright, well, we can also change the roughness, which that sweet spot is kind of right there, I think. I don't know what is going on with this lighting. It's like, oh, I think the normals are flipped. Yeah. Or not. So, because I was working with like the cylinder and stuff, they might have gotten a little bit messed up. And that just means like the side of the face that's outside. So if they're trying to make them inside, then that wouldn't be, then you'd get messed up lighting, but it doesn't look like it. That looks fine. Maybe it's just because of like the smooth shading. What if I, okay, an edge loop seems to have, adding an edge loop seems to, sometimes weird things like that make things make more sense. So, alright, let's make it a little bit more metallic and a little less rough, a little more rough. Can't say I'm sure, to be honest. Can't say I'm sure. And then, like, this being the kind of distorted version, what is the way that you make it now look like rusty and stuff? Is it all just going to be red? Maybe, maybe like some normal maps with like, you know, bumps and things like that. Getting into that would be probably something for another time. But yeah, all right, guys. I think that's just about gonna be where we wrap things up for this stream. Yeah, if you haven't got the starter guide, you can get the PDF in the description. I do have a Patreon, like I said. If you're coming into the stream, it'll be, you know, you get good value out of it. I think it's very useful, and I would really appreciate that sort of support. And something that would be very useful to you is, if you are interested, you can book an hour call with me for personal consultation for your game, which is in beta price, and it will eventually go up. So thank you guys tremendously for joining. I really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and I will see you all in the next one. And God bless.